Hi everybody. So, I haven't done really much anything inside the game since last episode, but I have done things with the game. Specifically, as promised, I installed Ice and Fire into the mod pack and then released the update to the mod pack. So those of you playing along at home may notice a few extra creatures laying around or hanging around. I have set it so the dragons are spaced a good distance apart, and so that they won't appear within 1,024 meters of spawn. So, things should be fairly safe until you go into deep exploring, and by then, hopefully, you should be equipped to deal with dragons. What is with these guys? Oh, you're hungry. Yep. I'll just throw them a few stacks of soybeans. Some taters. And whatever this is, taro. And some spinach. It's good for you. It's got a lot more flavor than lettuce, too. I put it on all my sandwiches. Alright, get to work, you lazy bums. There is nothing to be afraid of out there. These guys. Are you? They're doing this silly stuff a lot more frequently today. Okay, off they go to work. Good. Alright, so, last episode I promised that I would go and drill for some oil, as much as you drill for it in Nomadic space. But I need to do some stuff before I get started with that. I'll need to start with a Buildcraft pump. And while I could power them with simple redstone engines, I think I'd like to try using some Stirling engines fueled by coal coke and see if it runs faster. Because it's really slow just waiting for that oil to get sucked up. Of course, we'll want some pipes. Some Buildcraft pipes. And of course we'll have to build the ship itself. I was thinking I might want a mining laser for self-defense. I think I will probably wait for a later episode for that because I'll still have to build all the infrastructure and a lap pack to power it, you know, to keep the mining laser powered. But when I do, I will want to power the windmill with steel turbines since I do already have access to steel. So we'll just take that off the list for now and do that on a different episode. and pump. And 4 Stirling engines. Get half a stack of those. Wooden pipes and pipe sealant, and 4 stacks of coal coke. I can start work on the actual airship. This ship is basically going to be one big fancy fluids tank, about 12 or 14 meters long, 7 meters wide, and about 5 meters high, with some big balloons on either side. Alright, one simple, ugly cargo ship. Let's take a look at the assembly. 334 air balloons out of 581 blocks, making it 57%. This thing is airworthy. So yeah, I think this airship is ready to go. Although I'd like to wait for this eclipse to end. But you know, it doesn't really matter. I don't have to worry about mob spawns or anything. And we are not going up because we are not a ship yet. And I think it's because I just built this too close to this tank. That wasn't very good planning. Oh, and this tree over here. Yeah, this was just poorly planned. Alright, so I have 2 options here. I can either expand this landing pad that way, tear down this ship and then rebuild it over there, which is probably my best bet. Or I can take down this tank and this thing needs to go anyway. I can take down this tank, but I'll probably also have to chop down this silver wood, and I don't really want to do that. So yeah, we'll just expand this landing pad in a couple directions, tear the ship down, build it back up again. We'll probably actually be moving the pad a bit too, I think. All right, so the whole ship's coming down. Okay, so apparently airships don't like to have the helm down in front of the airship. So now I get to rebuild this landing pad, but I needed to do that anyway. And it seems like my silverwood tree died for nothing. Oh well. Alright, looking pretty good. Except for that right there. Now it's looking pretty good. Much larger. Certainly big enough to park this craft on. Now I just need to redo this tank. Alright, we've got our oil tank back. I've got pump, engines, pipes, coal coke, and a great big tank to put it in. In fact, any oil spout that I find is probably not going to be enough to fill this thing, which is fine. Only thing I'm missing at this point is 4 redstone engines just in case. And 4 redstone engines. I was just about to say this thing is going to be done by the time that I come back. It's done before I even leave. That's cool. I'm going to want to clear out this space too. And, you know, who knows how big this thing could get. I know one of my biggest problems when it comes to building Minecraft is that I think small when it comes to building. Because really, an oil refinery should be bigger than this. It looks pretty cool for being so small. But really, things are going to be a little bit tight in there as far as the refinery is concerned, even if all the tanks are external. So yeah, I should probably build it bigger than that. But not necessarily. Either way, what I want to do right now is fly my airship. Been waiting all episode to do that. All right, I want the very front of this ship to be as close to being over this spout as possible, with it still being in front of me. So if I can park with my little map marker right on that line, I think that ought to have it just about right. All right, and decompile. I think that's pretty close to right. Let's get this set up by daylight, though. Looks like I was just a hair off from the center of this spout. I really would like it if Buildcraft engines still produced RF. All right, let's turn this loose and pump up the juice. Okay, so apparently the pump is pumping up the oil. I guess the little pump pipe just doesn't show in VR. Perhaps a disappointment, but just a mild one. Oh, well, there it is. And it does seem to be right down the middle of it, so that's good. Pumps don't seem to be going that quickly. And clearly these Stirling engines engines are providing way more power than it needs. Let's just take a look and see whether the regular redstone engines do just as well. Because if it pumps just as fast, there's really no reason to waste coal coke on this. Alright, so all this pumping can go on off camera. And since I know I have that mega torch in the top of the balloon, I don't have to pay a whole lot of attention myself either, so you guys can skip all this time. I think I'll sit back and watch some Rick and Morty after I check this out. It's a villager outpost. I'd been hoping to find one with an actual villager in it. Or, even better, a couple of them. There's some gold and some iron, which is nice. But no villagers. Guess they won't miss this then. Did you forget to be a tank? You're a tank. Have fluid. Okay, so, good news. The pump worked great. It pumped out all of the oil, 535 buckets, and this thing holds over 3,000, as I recall. Bad news. I did a little bit of exploring after it was finished pumping, just flying around with my wings. And when I came back, the tank had decompiled. This sometimes happens with fancy fluid storage, but generally you right-click on the valve and it reactivates it, and it's just fine. It remembers the amount of fluid that was in there before. I right-clicked on this valve, and the other one was not activated, and the tank appeared to be empty. So I tried flying around and unloading the chunk and then loading it back again, and then I right-clicked this valve. Then it said it was empty, but I could still see oil in the tank. And so I left the game and came back, and now it's not showing any oil in the tank, and it says it's empty. Now, this probably does not have anything to do with VR, since most of the sitting around I did while waiting for the pumping to complete was in my pancake setup. I know it didn't have anything to do with Archimedes airships because from the point that this thing has not been a ship since I set up the whole pump and had this whole bug fest. I'm going to try flying around and unloading the chunk and then coming back and activating that tank one more time and see if that brings back my oil. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be really disappointed. I'm really disappointed anyway because I've done this before. It was in single player. Remember how I said you have to stay fed with this thing? So yeah, I have before in single player in earlier test worlds made a tanker airship with fancy fluid storage and pumped up a Buildcraft oil spout and brought it back home and pumped it into a local tank, which was exactly what my plan was this time. So the only thing that's different in this case is that I was on a server. And I'm not sure what else I want to do about that. I mean, it's not as if I don't have other ways of pumping oil, but this way was really cool. Except things become measurably less cool when they don't work. So maybe there is something I can do in the config, maybe something that I didn't do that I should have done that causes it to keep its fluid memories. But like I said, this thing wasn't an airship. It doesn't have anything to do with airships. Maybe it has something to do with using chisel blocks, but I really don't think it does. But if I can't figure out a way to consistently keep that from happening, then I might need to remove fancy fluid storage from the pack. Or maybe not. Maybe used at home base, or maybe when you have one valve. Maybe it's because I activated it with one valve and then later activated it with the other one. And I don't really need two valves. So let's just take this one out and replace it with some glass. And then when the sunlight comes again, I know where one other oil spout is. It's way over in another direction, and I guess I will head that way and see if it works better that way. This big tank can hold 17,000 buckets. Obviously, it was going to hold more than this tanker does. And wanting to fill this up gives me an excellent excuse to do more exploring. Although that is going to wait for a couple of episodes, there are a few things I want to do first. I have had a player tell me that they're having trouble getting squid to spawn. And I replied to him that I have been planning to make a pool around Y64, which, by the way, is the exact height at which I'm standing. And I'm doing it partly for an airship that's more boat-like, but also because I'm hoping to spawn squid so that one can have ink sacks. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on next episode. And I guess I will put it right over here. I think I'll also want to fill up this space. But of course, the first thing I'm going to do next episode is check on this. Because I'm about done playing for tonight. And this is a good place to close the episode. And I sure do hope that my oil doesn't disappear. Alright, so that's the episode. This is the tanker, and this is my oil. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you join me for the next one. And until then, have some fun, build something cool, and have a nice day.